Good morning from Seattle up here on the West Coast, and good afternoon to the rest of the country. We're on day 3 of 45 days of whether you want to call it common sense legal blogging, effective legal blogging, but the idea is to follow 45 chapters in a book that I would like to write at some point in time, and maybe we'll have it transcribed by talking with you via Facebook Live. The topic today is looking for opportunities. I'm starting off wearing the Cubs hat today. Why the Cubs? Because Cook County, which is all of Chicago, just passed Queens for most COVID cases, which is basically continued to be an eye-opener that we are one long way away from putting the virus behind us. We're probably just even starting with it. And the other thing that I was thinking about with Chicago is, 30 some years ago, I think Chicago had, 21 age drinking, and Wisconsin had 18. Where I lived in Wisconsin, so people drove across the border to go to the pubs. The scary thing that's going to happen this weekend and probably tonight is people are going to drive across the border from Chicago and all the cities along the border of Chicago, and they're going to go to all the pubs in Wisconsin that are celebrating that the virus is behind them at the same time that the curve in Wisconsin for the virus continues to rise, because they've become the wild, wild west, entirely open, no restrictions as far as activity with the virus, by their courts finding that it was unconstitutional to have any restrictions on activity. So take that for what it's worth. And I share things on COVID just to remind people really what's going on, as we live in a bubble sometimes and look at it from just the restrictions we have to live in, whether we wear a mask and we can't go out of the house, we don't travel, those type of things. But we're not in those situations where we're working in a hospital, or we're in a hospital, or we have loved ones in a hospital, type of things going on. But looking for opportunities is something that lawyers just don't do. When they start a blog, they think of, well, I have a family law practice. I have a workers' compensation practice. I have a there's my dog trying to get attention with a ball behind me, and that's how he talks. But you're going to look at no, Lewis. Bad dog. And we're back at it, maybe. That's a first. I guess we can clean that up later, Gary, by taking that portion out for the recorded version. But lawyers tend not to look at opportunities. They're going to tend to look at what we do right now. And the problem with that is that they're going to miss out on the opportunities to really make a better business. And so, when you really think of legal marketing, how myopic it really is, you have people, working for the lawyers. Imagine SEO or whatever. Somebody comes in and says, I have a bankruptcy practice in Rockford, Illinois, and get you to rank higher for Rockford, Illinois bankruptcy. Maybe you will make more money, but all you're doing is you're competing against every other lawyer in Rockford that does bankruptcy work. You're not doing anything for separation. I mean, imagine if Amazon came along and Bezos said, what I got to do is really build a better bricks and mortar bookstore than Barnes and Noble. I mean, where the hell would they be? They didn't go out and try to say, we can compete better. We can get on better streets. We can do better advertising. We can do better SEO so that people buy our books as opposed to Barnes and Noble. They did something different. What is looking for opportunities? What it means is, what opportunities might open up. There was a lawyer in Seattle that decided that cannabis law would be a big deal, and that was Dan Harris. And Dan decided that by sitting down with two other lawyers over lunch, before any lawyers in the country were talking about cannabis law, that by asking them whether it could be a business opportunity for lawyers, that by the next day, he decided to go after it. And so now you have Hillary Bricken. The firm used to be known as Harrison Mori. It's now known as Harrison Bricken. And Hillary Bricken, who was recently out of law school at the time she started the Canna Law blog, is known nationally and even internationally, and puts on conferences for it. We're only talking, relatively short period of time after that. So now Dan did, international work, other forms of commercial litigation, with a firm of, maybe 10, 12 people. They've grown to maybe 25 or more. But, he didn't say, Hillary, you've joined the firm. Why don't you help out on the China Law blog? It's doing very well. We're getting work internationally. He's looking for another opportunity. So that didn't mean that Hillary probably had to sit and twiddle her thumbs to get before that time came about. What happened is that she's probably doing other work and at the same time building this opportunity for cannabis. But smart firms, if you have the opportunity in a firm that is not myopic, wouldn't be worried about your billable hours. They'd be worried about how much are we going to make in the firm over the next 3, 4, and 5 years? What's the value of what we do? How is it going to increase? As opposed to saying, don't do anything that's forward thinking, just do what everybody else is doing. Spend a lot of money on advertising. Try to figure out how on the internet we can get more people to come to our website. But it's all the same stuff, as opposed to looking for opportunities. So as you do what you're doing in your existing practice, look for the opportunities. And you can blog on that new thing. There's nothing that prevents you from starting a blog and blogging on something that you've never done. And that's okay. Because blogging often is really a learning experience to share what you're reading, providing insight on what you just read, and you publish that. Everything that I started my blog on, because I knew nothing about blogging, was what I was reading and what I could share with other people. But you always want to look forward. You don't want to look here. And that's the same for larger firms. If you are in a practice group in a larger firm, oftentimes they start a blog almost by the name of the practice group. And if I ask the firm, why are you doing it on that? Well, that's the name of our practice group. Like, that's a default common sense thing. Who thought of that? Well, the practice group chair. Why did they want to do it? Because the Smith & Jones firm, big firm, is doing it. So we have to have one too. There's not a lot of common sense really in that. That's not the way that businesses would look at it. My business, we get really scared doing the same thing. And we got to over 10 years and said, could we be successful doing exactly the same thing over and over again? The answer is no. We couldn't be successful by doing that. We didn't know of any businesses that people go, I really love them because they're doing the same thing they did 15 years ago. So you're doing something different at the same time that you still, you're looking to do things different and setting yourself up to do something different, just like any other business would. So if we're building things in my company around technology and adapting it and doing iterations and then walking into the opportunities that it opens up, opportunities we didn't even realize, then I think we're being pretty smart as we're approaching it. Blogging is a really low cost and low time investment to do exactly that. So someone could say, whatever it might be and whatever you'd enjoy getting into it, and then making that transition, making the transition just easily. Right now with the virus going on, and we're basically, locked at home, why couldn't you just start to think about what would be fun? That going back to that magic wand, what would be fun if I was practicing in that and I didn't need to worry about where the money was coming from because I would be the best known lawyer in the country or the state or my region on that subject. What would it be? I'll just start a blog on it. It's not like somebody's going to go, oh my God, I saw you blogging on that. I need to take all my work away from you that I'm giving you right now on another topic. They're probably going to laud you. If they ask you about it, all you would tell them is, I think it's pretty enjoyable to learn this new area of the law that I have an interest in. So I'm reading about it, and I'm sharing, what I'm reading, and I'm providing my insight. Like, why did that mean anything, or what do I see going on? You'll start to attract like-minded people. Blogging is not a just broadcast thing. You'll start to have engagement in different ways as a result of it. And where will you go? I think you'll be really surprised. I don't know if I had mentioned it in one of the other early ones, but there was a young lawyer, recent grad in California. This goes back a number of years. I don't remember exactly how long. He had an interest in defamation law, in California. Not necessarily that the federal Constitution wouldn't apply to California too, and how it can control defense of defamation claims for public figures and whatnot, and what's commercial speech and whatnot. But he wants to write on California defamation law, and I'm thinking, well, that's pretty narrow. Maybe so narrow that nobody's ever going to see you. After we lost Jill, after Jill passed, he wrote me a really nice note, and he said, I've been thinking about you, and I wanted you to know how you really helped change my life with my California defamation law blog. And I'm thinking, well, you did that. It wasn't me. I was probably trying to talk you out of it. And what happened is that he kept doing that blog, and somebody at Yelp saw his writing, told the general counsel that, I don't know if he said this kid or this young lawyer seems to know what they're talking about on the issues that we need defended, we need work done. And between them, they said, well, maybe what we could do is give them something small, maybe that do no damage on, and then just see what happens. Well, they did. And now he's getting more work than any large firm from Yelp and similarly situated organizations. And so he's probably in his early 30s, and he's established himself in an area which is very unique, that I can only imagine that a lot of the social media companies, review companies and whatnot that we use every day have an interest in. And they know who he is. So, he went from, not trying to figure out how I'm going to get, the job in the firm that does all the things that everybody should be doing, the worker bees type of situation, or hanging out my shingle to do family law, bankruptcy law, workers' compensation law, all those type of things, because a lot of people look at it that way. He looked forward to an opportunity, and so he was looking more forward than I was even thinking about. He was thinking about, review, social media, those type of things, and the defamation becoming an issue, and defense of those defamation cases, and what the constitutional issues would be with that thing. And lo and behold, he built himself, a future by looking at opportunities. The last thing that I'll mention, and I'll just write it down here so you can see it, is Blog for Good. And remember that hashtag that we will be kicking around more often starting in next week. But what we want to do as a company, LexBlog, and I certainly want to do it, and I think a lot of other lawyers do it at some of the bar associations, is empower lawyers to use blogging as a way to help people, consumers, small business people, corporations, in-house counsel, government agencies, with legal insight and legal information on the issues that they're facing as a result of the pandemic. And they just don't stop. it's case law interpretations, it's statutory, it's executive orders. It just doesn't stop. And there's no better people to help do that than the lawyers themselves. And it isn't going to come from a stock information site. Bar associations are going to do some things, but they don't have an unlimited resource to keep putting out information. But bloggers answering common questions, bloggers providing insight on the developments that they're seeing, and aggregating and curating that information so that people can see it, can be very, very powerful. And if there's ever been a time when we should be thinking about how we can step up to the plate, it's now. There's never going to be, hopefully in our lifetimes, anything like this. So if lawyers don't step up to the plate and doing something that's meaningful and real and impactful for people, that isn't just thinking about themselves, it would be just a terrible shame. So what we're doing is we're taking all of the content that relates to the COVID, which is almost every blog post today, and we're getting it aggregated, and then we're curating it. And we're curating it out to major city bar associations, we're curating it out to state bar associations, we're curating it into law firms, so that if a law firm has, some firms have 35 or 40 blogs, take all their content, because you'd have to go out to all their blogs to find it, get it into one place so that all their lawyers can find it, make it easily available to their clients, have their clients being able to find that information, and continue to look for more ways that we can aggregate and curate blog content by lawyers on the pandemic, on the virus. And it's sad to realize that even though we're just doing this today, this is going to be around a long time. If we get a treatment for it, if we get a vaccine for it, it's not going to be till next year at the earliest. And we're not going to be having normally functioning lives where people are going to go into office buildings and go and travel and do all the things that they did in business, or consumers are going to be able to do those things and have jobs back that they ever had for years. So there's plenty of time for lawyers to kind of step up to the plate. We'll help you with that. So if you're looking to blog, or you're looking just to have a site where you can put information into this, let us know. Negligible cost at 30-some bucks a month, or it's free if you don't have the resources for it for a blog. And we'll be working with the bar associations to make sure that the bar associations are letting all the members of their bars and the lawyers in their states know about the opportunity to join the Blog for Good campaign. So it's just getting started, and we'll start to share more and more information about it in the coming weeks. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Obviously, it's not like we just walk out the office door and go do all the things we used to do, but enjoy and appreciate the things that you have. Talk to you later.